It's really amazing to me to see that in only a space of 10 years we've gone from being a couple of scientists doing some experiments to a company that people rely on as their place of employment, and that actually physicians around the world are using our products.
For Lindsay Machan and William Hunter, a brilliant eureka moment occurred during a chance encounter at university. In that moment, they realized they could give the world two medical firsts: a drug-coated medical device and a virtually permanent repair for the clogged artery. Doctors Hunter and Machan, co-recipients of the $100,000 Encana Principal Award.
Well, initially, if you had a blockage in an artery in your heart, for instance, you'd end up having to have open heart surgery, which is obviously a major operation. And then along came angioplasty, which is the procedure of sliding a tube into the arteries and opening the artery up. That was a huge innovation because obviously patients could go in and out of hospital in the same day or overnight.
Then, maybe 15 years ago, along came a stent, which was a metal cage that you could open up with a balloon, and it would physically prop the artery open so that it wouldn't collapse when you remove the balloon, and it would, keep the blood flowing to your heart.
The problem is that scaffold tends to cause a reaction, and then that tends to limit the lifetime that the stent was there. And those failure rates were even higher than 50% within 3 months in some cases.
The problem is that the body knew that a piece of stainless steel shouldn't be sitting in a valuable piece of anatomy, and a scar would grow over top, and that scar would get so thick that it would actually block the artery closed again.
It's time for innovation because it was recognized that patients want these procedures. They're great boons for the patient to be able to have these less invasive procedures, but something was needed to make them more permanent.
The innovation was going through the drugs that were already out there and trying to find a drug that could stop scars from growing.
The drug that actually does the trick, if you like, is paclitaxel, which is a derivative of the Pacific yew tree. It was a chemotherapeutic agent that was in relatively wide use at the time that we started to use it, but we were using it in an application that hadn't previously been used.
The second step was to actually physically get that drug attached to the stent and have it come off over a period of time so that the scar couldn't grow over top of it. What made this unique was that the drug would go onto the stent. It would prevent that tissue from growing over top. The stent would stay open, so your vessel continued to have blood flowing through it. So you're looking at something that was 5-6 times more effective than the therapy that preceded it. It was a simple concept, but the execution of it was a fair bit more complicated.
It was very new. It was the idea of putting a drug and a device together was very innovative and really not thought to be possible. And in fact, when Bill and I initially were trying to interest companies to co-develop this with us, I would say the first response was lukewarm at best.
In our clinical trials, we had half the patients receive bare metal stents, which was the standard of care at the time, and the other half of the patients received drug-coated stents. And the patients who received drug-coated stents did much, much better. I'm fond of saying that, the invention isn't the drug, the invention isn't the device, but the invention is the combination of those two.
One of the reasons this has been such a successful innovation that's been so widely accepted is it really makes it very easy for the cardiologist or the interventionist to do the procedure. He really does what he's always done, doesn't have to do any extra steps. It's also the same for the patient. The patient doesn't have to take medication for the rest of his life. This drug goes in at the time that the intervention is done, and then it does its activity locally.
To the healthcare system, it means a product that isn't continuing to fail 1 out of 4 times. It's a product that now fails much less. It means fewer repeat interventions, fewer procedures, fewer patients coming back, and obviously lower costs. Within 70 days of its launch, it had 70% of the worldwide stent market share. It, to the best of my knowledge, is the greatest single medical product launch in the history of medicine. It did $2.3 billion in sales in its first full year on the market. So it's been an unbelievable commercial success. This is a product that, between 1 million and 1.5 million people receive this therapy every single year.
I think it's very gratifying to know that it's going in approximately 5 patients every minute. But I think also one of the major benefits of this is that it's shown commercial and regulatory entities that such a device is not only possible to make and that it actually works in patients, but it's financially viable, you know, to actually create a device like this and take it through the regulatory process. There are so many other drug-device combinations that are possible that can extend the same kind of benefits to patients that now can be taken on and that people will take on. What we want to do with the prize money is do something that will invigorate kids about getting into science.
We wanted to go to early education to help encourage people to pick science as a career.
And growing up in a small town in Alberta, Ernest Manning was literally a revered figure. And to me, it's I'm enormously proud to win a Manning Award. And David Mitchell, I grew up in an oil town, and David Mitchell started and really created an incredible company. And so just to have their attention to something that we did, it really means a lot to me.